Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our review of the Inov-8 Mudtalon Speed. So the Mudtalon Speed is a new soft ground running shoe from Inov-8. It's got big long lugs on the underside to help you get grip if you're running in the mud, on fells, that kind of thing, and it's designed to be speedy. It's got a very lightweight design as well. It costs £130 in the UK, $140 in the US. It weighs in at 257 grams or 9 ounces, which is really very light given the amount of outsole you've got here. And then you've got a stack height of 26mm at the heel, 22mm at the forefoot for a 4mm drop. Of that stack height, 11mm at the heel is the midsole and 7mm at the forefoot, because obviously it includes a lot of other stuff, the stack height, but that's your midsole heights. You have a ripstop upper on the shoe, which is designed to drain very well. It's quite a lightweight material, but yeah, drainage is very much the key here to avoid the upper material soaking up a load of water when you're on those wet and muddy runs. You have a toe guard running around the front of the shoe there to protect from any accidental bumps of rocks and stuff on the trails. You've got a foot-shaped toe box as well, and two fits available on the Mudtalon, which is a first for Inov-8. You've got a precision fit, which is what I have here, and there's a wider fit available as well. Those precision and wide fits refer to the width of the toe box. So I've got quite a narrow foot, and I've got the precision fit here. We'll talk more about this in the fit section, as you'd expect. You have a Powerflow Pro foam midsole on the shoe with a boomerang sock liner or insole. That's a 6mm TPU beaded material, the insole, which adds a fair bit of softness and bounce underfoot, which is one of the features of the shoe. It's got a little bit more midsole stack and comfort here than many of Inov-8's lightweight soft ground shoes have had in the past, and a lot of that is down to that sock liner along with the Powerflow Pro midsole you have there. Got a flexible Metashank rock plate. It's not that noticeable to me, but you get a little bit of extra protection, but it doesn't stop the shoe being good and flexible and giving you plenty of ground feel underfoot. Then onto the outsole, very much the key of all of Inov-8's soft ground shoes. You've got sticky grip rubber here with these 8mm lugs. You can see the pattern, how they're arranged there. The idea is that you get good grip and purchase, especially when going uphill and when going downhill and trying to brake a little bit by dropping back on your heels. You've got the lugs change direction to try and give you that extra purchase when you're on mud or grassy running. They're also quite widely spaced, so you're going to shed that mud quite well. And it's the sticky grip rubber, so it's meant to also be able to cling to wet rocks okay and stuff like that. So this is a soft ground running shoe, but it's got some features here that means it's okay for short stints on the hard trails as well. Part of that is this rubber, which despite these really long lugs, and you think, with 8mm lugs like this, and you hit some hard patches of rock or something like that, you're not going to be very comfortable in the grip, but actually the shoe does pretty well with the nature of the rubber you have here, although it isn't the graphene enhanced stuff you have seen on other Inov-8 shoes in recent years. Then you have a few flex screws around the front of the shoe, again to increase flexibility, especially around the toe off of the shoe, and make sure you've still got a nice natural ground feel you expect from a trail shoe, even if it has got a slightly higher stack than some of Inov-8 shoe in the past. It's still a low stack shoe that gives you that real feel for the ground when you're on the trails. So as I mentioned, in the design section, you've got two kinds of fit with the Inov-8 Mudtalon Speed. You've got the precision fit, which is what I have, which is the kind of more narrow, dialed-in fit around the toe box, and then a wider fit, which gives you that extra width around the toe box. Also got this foot-shaped toe box you have here. Generally, I found the fit very good in my normal running shoe size. I've never really had a problem with Inov-8 shoes in the past. I have quite a narrow foot, so things like the X-Talon 210 and 212 fit me quite well, even though they were quite torpedo-like shoes. I like the fit of those shoes, but I say the fit is better with the new shoe, even as someone who has a narrow foot. I still get the nice tight hold where I want it around the midfoot. You've got a slightly more open back design of the shoe here, which means it's easier to get the shoe off and on, which I have had problems with in the past with some Inov-8 shoes. And you've got enough room in the toe box that I didn't feel I was being cramped, or my toes didn't hit the front of the toe box at any point when I was running downhills. But at the same time, it still felt nice and dialed in and racy. I've raced in the shoe and it felt really good. It doesn't feel like it's too much shoe or too much space there for you're going to do like quite a short distance race like I did, but you do have enough room then to go and do long runs in the shoe and for it to feel comfortable. So yeah, all around I like the fit of the shoe quite a lot. I do think these new fit options will help Inov-8 appeal to some people who've maybe found them a bit narrow in the past as well. So I've done about 30 miles in the Inov-8 Mudtalon Speed, and that's all been in my local forest here in Chingford in North London, which is a very muddy forest generally. It has been actually frozen for part of my testing of the shoe, and I did a 5-mile race in the shoe, a cross-country race in the forest here, which is a very hilly 5-miler on a mix of kind of grass, mud, some frozen ground as well in that. And also it's quite a heavy mud we have here in Chingford, a bit of a clayy mud, so that's been quite a good test of the shoe in terms of its capabilities in that kind of terrain. Haven't been able to get out onto anything more adventurous in terms of trails as I've been home for the winter here, but there has been a nice range of trails available in the forest, including some good mud, which is what I really want to test the shoe in myself. I've been a big fan of Inov-8's trail racing shoes for a few years. During cross-country season, I will often use the X-Talon 210 instead of spikes, just because I prefer the feel of it, the extra grip you get at the back of the shoe in particular compared to spikes. And yeah, I've always found them really good. The grip's always been outstanding, but comfort necessarily hasn't hasn't always been there. And with this shoe, I guess you're kind of getting a bit of a combination of the X-Talon range, that lightweight, grippy speedster, and then the Mudclaw, which is the bigger, more protective, more cushioned mud shoe that you have in Inov-8's range, which I have used in the past and it was fine, but I did find it quite a big shoe, quite a heavy shoe. And when I'm on soft ground, I tend to not want too much shoe on my foot just because the ground is taking a lot of the impact out of the running anyway. So I did like that, the idea of a slightly more protective X-Talon, which is kind of what I think the Mudtalon Speed is. You've still got that grippy, lightweight, racy feel, but with a little bit more cushion underfoot. That does mean it's a bit more suitable for some easy cruising. So it's still not a shoe that's obviously designed for all-out comfort. It's still a speed-focused shoe, and you've got loads and loads of outsole there and not a huge amount of midsole, but I have found I've been able to go and do some easy runs in this shoe, just rocking around the forest, which I didn't really tend to do in the X-Talon 210 too much, just because it was a very lightweight shoe. And when I've raced in the X-Talon, I found that it has beaten up my legs a little bit, whereas with the Mudtalon Speed, again, you've got that little bit of extra protection there, and I do think it makes quite a big difference in terms of how your legs feel the next day and how they feel on slightly longer runs at easier paces. But no fear here. It's still very much a nimble, firm, grounded shoe that gives you a lot of feel for the trail and is very fast. Like, it's not suddenly like a big cushioned cruiser for the trails or anything like that. You're still very much getting that sprightly feel that lets you know what's underfoot, and it gives you that that flexible feeling as well when you're on tricky, narrow trails, slipping in and out of mud, maybe on some harder ground. You've still got all that agility that you expect from a shoe like this. When I raced in the shoe, it was a 5-mile race. Like I said, it was pretty hilly, just up and down 3 hills twice, basically in the forest, with some descending, or actually was probably more frozen grass, which was a bit unusual here. It doesn't normally get quite so cold for everything to be as frozen as it was on that day, but grip was very good running down a grass hill that was frozen pretty fast, and then hitting some muddy sections, especially one particularly annoying uphill muddy climb where you really need the purchase from a shoe like this to ensure you're kind of not just spinning your wheels going up the hill and just sliding every time you take a step. And yeah, grip was really good, weight was really good. It was a 5-mile race, pushing all out, very nimble up the hills, shed the mud pretty well as well. I found, like, when going through the muddier patches on the course, did get rid of that mud quite quickly. It wasn't like I felt like I was carrying that mud around with me for a mile or two afterwards. Drainage pretty good too. If you step through into a big puddle, it's going to get rid of it quite quickly. The insole will soak a little bit, but I didn't find I was very squelchy and sploshing along in it as I have done in some other shoes when I've gone through puddles. So definitely still has that edge for trail racing. It's not quite as light as something like the X-Talon 210 or the Adidas Terrex Speed SG, another shoe I've liked for racing, but I think the grip is exceptional. The extra protection is very useful, and I do think it's a really good trail racing option for cross-country races or for longer runs on soft terrain, things like fell runs, that kind of thing. It will do the job really well because of the extra protection. Have been on some harder stuff as well. Obviously done a little bit of road to and from the forest, and then done some harder trails as well as the weather's started to improve a little bit. It actually does grip quite well. I thought it'd be very skittery on that kind of terrain because of the long lugs, but especially on the road, but actually it's okay. It's quite comfortable. The rubber sticks reasonably well. I think even with the rock plate on there, if you're going to spend a long time on rocky or gravelly ground, I'm not sure it's going to be the most comfortable option for sure. There's definitely going to be shoes that do that kind of stuff better. But if you're looking at mixed terrain races and you're hitting short spells of that, the Mudtalon Speed I think copes with it quite well. Like even on cross country races, sometimes you're going to hit a little bit of tarmac or something like that. And my club's races around the forest, kind of 10 miles, 15 miles, have a lot of harder spells and with some road sections. And I do think this shoe will cope with those fine, whilst then giving you that really aggressive grip when you do hit the mud again. So yeah, really enjoyed the run test in the shoe, enjoyed racing in it, enjoyed cruising around in it. A very capable all-round soft ground shoe. Verdict is the Mudtalon Speed. I think it's probably my favourite Inov-8 ever in terms of their soft ground shoes. Like, I've always been a big fan of those shoes, and I do think this is a really well balanced shoe that combines some of the features from other shoes in their lineup. Best part about it is definitely the grip. It's fantastic. It grips very well. It sheds that mud pretty well. It's still quite comfortable on harder ground. It's not going to suddenly just fall apart if you hit a bit of wet pavement and send you flying. It still sticks quite well to that kind of thing. Will be okay on rocks as well. Though I think you're going to lose a little bit on the comfort side if you're going to go on hard rails for long periods, because even with the slightly higher level of cushioning you have in this shoe, it is still a very grounded shoe that's not offering loads of protection from the trail underneath your feet. So again, if you're looking at all-terrain shoes and more hard ground focused shoes, you're going to get a lot more cushioning in the midsole, a lot more general protection. But as a soft ground focused shoe, you do get a decent amount of that here, which does give it a little bit extra versatility compared to something like the X-Talon, which I did find a bit too hard when I was on hard ground and wasn't that comfortable. So it's not as light as some of those other shoes I've mentioned there, or obviously even spikes if you're looking for a pure cross-country racer, but it does that job really well. Like, generally, I find in cross-country season I'm not always at my best, and this is the kind of shoe I'd like to wear, especially for longer races in cross-country, because you've got that protection, you've got the grip, it's still lightweight, you can perform close to your best. If you're really on it, you're absolutely gunning over 5 miles, it's all going to be grass, you're just going for all-out speed, then spikes, or even one of the lighter Inov-8s will give you a little bit more of an edge, but this is a very capable short distance racing shoe, and then has a bit of extra versatility that you can do loads more training in this than I would do in spikes or the X Talon or anything like that, just because I think it is a more comfortable shoe for just mooching around soft ground. Do think the new fits are quite a nice idea for Inov-8 as well. I think that'll open up their shoes to a few more people who maybe found them a bit too narrow and torpedo-like in the past. You've got this more foot-shaped toe box, the two options. It does make it a more comfortable shoe, even if you are someone like myself who is narrow-footed and was fine in Inov-8's previous versions. I think the price is okay as well. Like, it's a bit more expensive than the X Talon, but I think it's a reasonable price for what is a very capable all-round shoe. I guess really whether it's worth going for will depend on your use case though, because despite the extra versatility you get here compared to some other soft ground shoes, it is still a fairly niche shoe. You've got to be spending all your time on soft stuff in this shoe, I think. Like, you can do a little bit of hard ground here and there, but I don't think it's ideal for that. There's certainly better shoes within Inov-8's range or other people's range that can do that. And if you are maybe someone who's gone into mud a little bit, but are actually just looking for a general versatile trail shoe, something like the Saucony Peregrine, has pretty good outsole for the mud, and then will give you a lot more versatility and comfort for runs on other surfaces. But if you are looking for a fast, soft ground focused shoe that can do a bit of racing, a bit of training, give you really good grip, a little bit of comfort, I do think the Mudtalon Speed is excellent. It's really hit my sweet spot for a trail running shoe, especially around here in the winter, especially when I'm doing a lot of those kind of races as well. But for other uses, there probably will be more suitable shoes that might not make it the perfect pick, but for some people, I do think this would be an ideal shoe, and it lives up to basically everything it sets out to achieve. So if you like the sound of it on paper, it delivers it in practice, I found. So that's our review of the Inov-8 Mudtalon Speed. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and ring the little bell so you get notified when we do a new video, and we'll see you next time.